Hello, guys. How is everyone? I hope everyone's doing well. Yeah, today is something that I wanted to do for a little while, but just watching the markets play out as it's all around what's going on in crypto right now. And more importantly, what was taught in our original ultimate learning experience, the elements that were covered, are they changed at all today? Is there anything that has happened in the last 9 or so months that impacts what we covered in that initial conversation and the initial learning experience that we had? So, the aim of today, really simple. I'm going to bring up on screen the different sections that we covered within this learning experience. And I'm going to go through each one, and then we'll have a short interval at the end of each one, and I'm just going to give you what my opinion is on how some of these elements have developed in the past 9 months. I've been in the market every single day since this point, and I, of course, was one of the coaches on this learning experience. So hopefully, I can add some good value and context to the discussion, and add some valuable points for us to think about based on where the market is now. So let me bring this up on screen. So this was the course contents for the learning experience. The first thing I'll say is that a lot of what the creators covered is very fundamental, i.e., a lot of it wasn't dependent solely on market movements or how the industry is going to play out. We designed the learning experience to be, as valuable a year down the line as it was on the day of release. So, with that in mind, what I'm going to try and do here is just apply current market context. That doesn't take away from the value that was actually shared in this course whatsoever. And of course, if you are looking to get your hands on the ultimate Web3 learning experience, then DM us on X and we can send you the instructions on how to grab a pass from the secondary market. So anyway, let's get into it. The first one is a quick overview is that we covered the next era of the internet. So why is blockchain such fascinating technology and what can it actually help us achieve? The second module was all around creating value in Web3. So if you're an entrepreneur or just a participant in crypto, what are your areas of being able to generate revenue? The third module was around how do you create an audience? So this was taught by Crypto Eri, who is a content creator with over 340,000 in her audience. So content creation is an amazing model to have in crypto. So she dived into how you actually become a content creator. And again, the landscape for content creators is always changing. So that section is going to be important today. Next one, so embracing blockchain technology. This was taught by the CEO of a layer one blockchain, Hugo Feiler. And he covered all around blockchain technologies, its capabilities. And again, today we're going to examine how that can potentially, and the capabilities enhanced? Have they not enhanced? What's the deal? The next one's taking your project to market. So we had Harry Horsfall, who's the CEO of Europe's largest Web3 marketing agency. It's all about creating a brand and building something in crypto. And then finally, we had starting your journey. So these were actionable steps on how you actually start your journey in crypto. Back to the first module, let's cover where we are today. So this again is my opinion, and I hope that my opinion sheds some light. I do really try to master this industry and spend a lot of time in it. So I do hope that my opinions are helpful. But anyway, the next era of the internet. So firstly, where we're at now. So I think the challenges that we face has always really been trying to bring more retail into the market, building those applications, the Amazons, the Googles of Web3, where people are interacting with applications, not knowing that blockchain technology is used, but it is, and that's why the app has substantial value. So something that we've seen recently is the likes of Base have done it as a blockchain. Abstract is an L2, and they're starting to do it as well. But these kind of the producers of the technology, the blockchains themselves, the L1s, the L2s, are starting to, not all of them, but a couple of them, like the ones that I've mentioned, have started to create a consumer-facing application they've started to build components enabling the everyday person to essentially come and interact with blockchain technology without necessarily needing to know that they are. And like I said, the base app, which has come out this year, and also Abstract as an L2, have really tried to accelerate consumer crypto. And this is a trend that we might continue to see. So it's all about building on top of the infrastructure that we have, building useful applications, and making the use of these applications non-technical so that anyone can come and use these applications. So it's kind of chicken and egg, because you need to have the infrastructure available through technological development to build solutions that do enable the ability for us to create applications on top of blockchain that are super helpful. So that's where I see it. That's kind of something and a big move that I wanted to share on today's recording. And then what does the Web3 future look like? This is something that, again, I have an interesting take, but in the last 9 months or so, we've seen huge acceleration in artificial intelligence. And this acceleration has almost made me think that the user pool of blockchain technology will almost be agentic as well, right? We have retail users at the moment, but because of AI and how smart it's becoming and how many use cases it has, applications that are built on blockchain now, their users might be agents. Agents are not going to be looking for fancy UI. They're going to be looking for APIs and technical documentation and things like this. So I think as we develop into this next era of the internet, AI is the biggest driving force of this. And therefore, anything built in blockchain needs to be AI friendly, in my opinion. So that's a couple of points on the next era of the internet. We'll have a quick 30-second interval now. And then we'll be coming back and covering the second module, creating value in the Web3 realm. Okay, we're back. So creating value in the Web3 realm. Now, what I looked at, because I was the one who recorded this module initially, was what value can you create? Monetary, so to receive some form of financial incentive, or non-monetary, just adding value for yourself. And the key points I covered really were that non-monetary is a sense of belonging, being a part of a community, being a part of something greater than oneself. And monetary, again, the different business models that you can implement in crypto to make money. Then I also discussed on how you build your own project, and how that could be a crypto project or a service-based company, and how you can participate in projects for a benefit, and then finally making the value count. So in terms of an update for today, I would say the first thing that is super important to understand is that there are some very, very cemented business models in the world of Web3 that have proven time after time to be successful and still do today. So things like being a creator, launching a project, being involved in projects as a community member, these are all things that I covered that still hold great weight today. And developing on those things, I think my main point here that I would add if I was re-recording this is all about conviction. So conviction is just having full confidence in something, and really believing in something. And I think one of the big mistakes that a lot of builders make in crypto, or participants in crypto make, is they really are splitting their focus way too much. They might hold 50 different coins, for example. It's very hard to really push and add meaning to 50 different coins. It's very, very hard to do that. Whereas if you really believed in one or two coins and you created content, you essentially worked for your bag, and you were really involved in that project, you probably have a much bigger chance of actually adding value and then in turn adding value to yourself. So I would add into creating value in the Web3 realm about conviction. And this is something we saw play out with Murad. So Murad is the guy who's just spurred on meme coins. He had a few big bets placed on a couple of meme coins. He didn't really get involved in the deep trenches of pump fun and things like that. He had conviction on SBX 6900. He had conviction on Popcat, a couple of others, With a couple of other coins. And his portfolio once upon a time was around 30 million. And then over time, that value dropped and he never sold his back. So a lot of individuals were like, oh, laughing at him. But he carried on posting content around these memes. He carried on pushing these memes. And essentially, his portfolio now is at all-time highs, greater than it ever was before. So it really does show that conviction in what you're building and staying focused on that, or conviction on what you're holding and the communities that you're participating in really do hold weight. So that's the kind of additional thing that I would say on creating value. In terms of the business models that I mentioned in this module are all still super viable today. So I don't have a lot more to add on that one. But yeah, creating value in Web3. Again, if I was to add a final point, probably just to do with market cycles. Things seem to be heating up right now with ETH being where it is and ETH nearing all-time highs. Could potentially bring a lot of excitement back into the market. And on top of that, the approach that institutions, even governments have taken to crypto in the last 9 months has been very, very bullish. And it really does show that this industry, in my opinion, is here to stay. And therefore, trying to create value in this industry isn't a short-term thing, but can be a long-term play also with the belief we have now in this market. So yeah, that's creating value in Web3, the updated version. And next, we're going to get into creating an audience and a voice in Web3. Cool. So next up, create an audience and voice in Web3. Now, Eri was amazing on this module. She went into so much depth. Anyone looking to become a content creator in crypto, she had you covered. She really did. And yeah, I mean, anything from starting to produce content, creating engaging content, starting a YouTube channel, finding your voice, all of these sorts of things, Eri covered amazingly well, and they all stand true today. My thing is, or what I wanted to add here is how we've seen the influencer space navigate over time, and also why now is probably the best time to start creating crypto content if you haven't yet. So a lot of big KOLs got mixed up a lot in meme coins and previous cycle projects and have hurt their audiences a fair bit from shilling the wrong things. And they've devalued their audiences by doing this. So recently we've seen a big rise in micro KOLs. So these are guys that might only have 3,000 followers, 10,000, 20,000, whatever it might be, with super engaged audiences. And they actually tend to have, almost as good a pull than a big KOL does now. Because a lot of these big KOLs have stale audiences, right? Where they've amassed followers over time. Some of those people are no longer in crypto, no longer active. They've been, they followed this guy for a year and they ended up losing money, so they're no longer interested in listening to him. Whereas these new creators that really put time into creating solid content, providing value, they're starting to really kick on and pick up now. So my addition point here really is that if you're looking to get into creating content in crypto, micro KOLs focused on specific niches with smaller but more engaged audiences are doing very well right now. And my additional advice would be focus on one thing, right? That might be one ecosystem. When Eri came around, Eri focused heavily on XRP, and having that focus and being, that beacon of information around a certain specific profile made her very easy to follow, because anyone interested in XRP would follow Eri because that's what she really spoke about. So they would be the additional points when it comes to creating an audience and voice in Web3. Micro KOLs are super effective right now. Becoming a niche content creator, there's a great gap for it right now, and obviously focus on one specific thing. So yeah, that's the third module. And again, we'll be back in 30 seconds to cover the next module. All right, embracing blockchain technology. So Hugo did this module. Hugo graduated from Cambridge and had a pretty big marketing agency before moving into crypto and building Minima. Very successful guy in his own right, and genuinely one of the smartest people that I know in this space. So to have him talk about blockchain technology and what made him navigate towards that and create his own layer one blockchain with his team, it was a huge module, and it is packed full of value. What I want to do, and I'm not going to be able to do this as well as Hugo, but I'll give it my best shot, is just dissect blockchain technology. So, and where we see the use cases today. So the first one, of course, is stable coins. So recently we had the Genius Act come out of the US, which is a massive movement for this industry. Stablecoins are the biggest RWA, the biggest real-world asset tokenized on chain that we have today. And now with the Genius Act, it's giving clarity to stablecoins and their functionality. And this is spearheading on the amount of stablecoins that are being minted. And having the stablecoin represent, or the on-chain representation of a real currency, is one of the most amazing things, right? Because you can send money instantly to someone that holds its value attached to whatever that currency is instantly without bank fees, Like it genuinely is such an amazing use case. And now you even have companies like Amazon and Walmart considering launching their own stable coin to save, hundreds of millions of dollars on bank fees per year. So in terms of companies embracing blockchain technology, they're starting to embrace blockchain technology more, and stable coins as an RWA is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, use cases of blockchain technology and how it kind of moves down into a use case in the real world. So that's something which I definitely wanted to mention about where we see the embracing of blockchain technology today. I think aside from that, tokenization of assets in general that have clear value is something that is going to continue evolving. There's going to be companies that are entering this field to tokenize the assets that they have, to make them easier to move around, to make value easier to transact with, and so on. And I'd also say we've seen a real rise in the internet capital markets. So this is something that is kind of a new coin term, internet capital markets, and essentially it's digital assets, right? And we have to realize where we are. And in the last couple of decades, a lot of traditional assets just haven't performed or outperformed inflation. So a lot of those capital markets have relatively underperformed. So there's emergence now of internet capital markets, which is digital assets, right? Digital assets could be, it could be altcoins. We're seeing obviously a big influx into Ethereum right now for institutions. It could be meme coins as well, and things that hold cultural and online value. So yeah, it's a huge market, but we're seeing like this kind of coin term now of internet capital markets, and also how easy it is to create an asset now. So if you wanted to create an asset beforehand, let's say a stock, huge red tape to be able to get someone to kind of invest in the success or potential future success of your project. Tokenization kind of breaks down that barrier and gets rid of it. And now with digital assets, being and the market cap of digital assets growing and growing over time, we are almost seeing this emergence of internet capital markets, which hopefully can provide a better return than the traditional capital markets have over the last couple of decades. And we're seeing adoption now of these big institutions, hedge funds, VCs coming to play in this field. And obviously, the big enabler in all of this has been the ETFs. So it's still very early in terms of the smaller assets that aren't the Ethereums and Bitcoins. There's a lot of big projects that have filed for ETFs now. Don't quote me on this, but I feel like I read something where there was like 20 or 30 projects that had filed for ETFs. Solana, I mean, even Pudgy Penguins have, right? So I think this is going to be a continual move forward, internet capital markets, in my opinion. And then obviously the second side is the use case of tokenization and RWA. So yeah, I'm just trying to give you like how I see blockchain being embraced on the bigger scales right now. And I think another one is AI. I think a lot about this because AI, to not make the same mistakes as we did with the internet, is to have a decentralized future and being able to decentralize AI, so it's not operated and owned solely by, and all the data owned by solely by one organization like OpenAI, I think is a huge thing. And there's a lot of active builders in the blockchain space building AI protocols to try and bring this to light. So yeah, I think blockchain is complementary technology to AI and can have a huge use case there. So they're my three things about embracing blockchain technology, how I see it today. And yeah, again, I'll be back in 30 seconds for taking your project to market. All right, so taking your project to market. The landscape has changed a fair bit in the last 9 or so months. The fundamentals are still there. So everything that Harry discussed still has, a huge influence and a points that builders have to consider. But the way in which a project gets taken to market, I think for me, a lot of projects in crypto, 1 second, I feel like I'm going to sneeze. Sorry, didn't want to sneeze down the mic. But yeah, the way that a project is taken to market, this industry has seen a lot of projects launch tokens and achieve crazy market caps and raise crazy amounts of capital without delivering anything. And yeah, I mean, now I think the market's starting to pick up on, no, we want to, put our bets and invest in projects that are actually proving what they say they are. So it's storytelling is always so powerful in crypto, but storytelling that's now backed up, I think, is the most important thing. Because there have been so many tokens that have launched that have gone to $100 million market caps that have never actually had a utility or need, right? It's all on speculation and hype, and the market's becoming a lot wiser now because, if you're a token, people can go and look into the token, the on-chain metrics, and these are people that are now been trading crypto, buying crypto for multiple years. They've been through the meme coin mania, so they understand how to read on-chain data, and also work out whether projects are doing, walking the walk. And yeah, I think this is a big element of the difference in landscape in taking a project to market. With Uppercent, for example, right? We raised a tiny bit of money. We got an MVP together. We put it out there. We published a couple of learning experiences. And we did all of this before even considering if we were going to launch an Uppercent token or something like this, right? Because we need to work out how we can build something that provides the most value, whether it's something that's needed by the market, and work this stuff out before we kind of got around to that side. So that has always kind of been something that I've known coming into this. I've worked on Uppercent now for a couple of years. It's a real passion, project of mine in terms of education, tokenizing education, and elevating the e-learning industry. And yeah, for me, the value of coming in here is to try and build something that provides value. And even if you look at the access pass system that we haven't yet been able to build this really amazing secondary market for Uppercent. But at the same time, anyone who bought an access pass, either for $75 in this course, or for the pre-sale, I think it was $99 in the first learning experience course, has got the delivery of that learning experience, which we put so much time into building these learning experiences, hoping that anyone who did pay $75 or $99 got way more value than what they paid for. So even when we were launching those access passes, we didn't launch them and then sell them and then work out how we were going to deliver something. The team worked very hard on building learning experiences and bringing creators in and building these learning experiences to a high standard, with what we could do with budget. And so that we're like, is this worth $75? Yes, in our opinion, 100% it's worth $75 or $99. So when we actually launched something, we were sure that we could deliver value. And yeah, never kind of like a lot of projects do. They might just go and launch a token and focus on creating speculation and hype, send it up to 50 mil, 100 mil market cap, and not have anything sustainable behind that project. I'd much rather see builders do it this way, come to market, and build. And I think they're going to have to do this now based on how the market's played out. That's why I'm giving you a story as to how these projects can navigate, actually having to come and build something first and work on it and get it right before the opportunity to go and launch a token with 100 million market cap is even possible, because people are smarter now and they're going to look into whether the tokenomics are followed through on, whether a project's actually delivering the value that it says it can, and things like this. So yeah, in terms of taking the project to market, I think we're going to see a lot more builders do this. We saw it with Hyperliquid. They launched their DEX perps and put it out there way before they launched the token. They worked on it, they got to product market fit, and then they launched their token. So then when they did their airdrop for their community that were using the protocol, helping them get over the cold start problem in the first place, they were able to essentially launch the token and go from TG to a $13 billion market cap within 8 months, which is exceptional, because they had a product, and that product success directly tied to the success of the token, because they were kicking back on 97% in buybacks to buy back the hype token through revenue generated by the platform. So they launched a product, got product market fit, got it revenue generating, launched a token, and held that token up buying pressure wise through the revenue generated from the platform. So I think we're going to see a lot more of this. So when projects are coming to market, I think we'll see less, okay, we're launching a token and then we're going to go and build this thing, and we're going to see more, we've built this. This is why we need a token. This is what the use case of the token is going to be. And this is like the proof that we need that token in our model, and we can create a valuable token. Now let's launch it. So that's my main take really on kind of the taking your project to market side. And yeah, it's much harder. Like, I can talk from experience here. It's much harder to do this. To either have to try and bootstrap something together with little funds, or try and get investors to believe in your big vision when you're at that stage. It's much easier to go and launch a token and build a treasury through that, and then you have all the funding you need to go and try and build something, right? That is a much easier route, but it's not necessarily a sustainable route unless you get it right. So, and obviously there are some projects that have, but there are many projects that haven't. The much more logical route, as I mentioned, is to put something out there, bootstrap together, do what you can, put something out there, and see how the market reacts to it. And then hopefully be able to navigate the journey there and move it towards a place where you do have an element of product market fit. And then if you want to launch a token or do any of this stuff, then the ecosystem that you're going to put that token into has a product that's sustainable that you've already put out there, and you can move forward from there. So yeah, that's kind of my main point on that side. And yeah, I'll be back again 30 seconds to see this one out, see this live recording out with starting your journey. Okay, so we're down to the final part of this webinar and stream. Everyone who's joined, really, really appreciate it. I hope I've managed to give you some value for taking up 30 minutes of your time so far. And yeah, let's get into the final part, starting your journey. So I think that the steps that were covered in the learning experience, I don't want to change them whatsoever. They're very, very logical steps. And yeah, they haven't changed too much. I'll just give you my view when I think about starting my journey. If I was going to start again in this space, what would I do? Again, if I'm building something, then I'm going to take that approach that I mentioned in the last section, which I did already when starting Uppercent. So anyone looking to build a project, I would take that approach. The second thing I would say is be in the market every single day. So from my side, I'm a growth hacker in crypto. That's my day job. And that helps me really understand this market and the trends and what's going on, and that enables you to, spot opportunities and stay in the loop and apply that to what you're working on. So that's another thing that I would say. The third thing I'd say is that if you want to understand how this space works more, you have to commit and be a part of communities, and research and learn and put time aside every single week to continue doing that. So taking things like the ultimate Web3 learning experience, and then going away and having your own planning, implementing that into a real situation. So that's another thing. I think even, I'm in Asia at the moment, and I met a guy who's in crypto, and he's just a meme coin trader, right? And when I was talking to him, he's basically saying to me that he can spot a meme coin now, and he can see that it's going to be successful. And he hit a few meme coins in the last, I would say, couple of weeks, even when it's not completely meme coin season right now, that went on to provide huge rewards. And it's just his brain training of losing out through meme coins for the last year and a half and committing to it. So the way that he now approaches that market, naturally, he's better at. Now, I'm not saying you need to be a meme coin trader whatsoever, right? This is just one example of how he's just trained his skill set up over a period of time. So if you send him a meme coin now, he is going to have a very good assessment of that within a short period of time, because he's seen how markets play out. Whereas, and this is the same with everything, if you're looking to build a project, you could get involved in a project's community, start communicating with their team, be a part of the whole process and really understand it before maybe starting your own project. This is a very community-based industry, and therefore the opportunity to be able to work with others, collaborate with others, and be involved in things is massive. So definitely starting your journey, just get involved in that, collaborate, and yeah, obviously work out what it is that you want to do. And I think a lot of people that have come into crypto might come into crypto with one idea. They become sucked in by the space, and the end result is that they work on something completely different within a year or two, right? Or they might end up coming in for DeFi and then or coming in for NFTs, which is a big thing. A lot of people came in NFTs in 2021. They stayed in the space. Now they're in meme coins, or they're in RWA, or they're in AI, or whatever it might be, right? But the point is that you go in with something that you believe in, and hopefully you're passionate about a certain area, and you commit to it, you have that conviction, and you look to become the best at what you do. And then by being in it every single day, if you see an opportunity arise that the skill set you've learned can be applied to, then you can navigate towards that. So yeah, I think for today, that is everything. I hope that this has been helpful. and it's provided some up-to-date context on these key areas of Web3 that we provided in our Ultimate Learning Experience. As always, on the Ultimate Web3 Learning Experience, if it's something that you want to access, you want to go through this, like I mentioned, it's just as relevant now, 9 months down the line, 10 months down the line, however long it's been, as it was when we first launched it. So yeah, if you're watching this, drop us a DM or whatever, and we can let you know how to get access to this on the Uppercent platform. So really appreciate anyone who's joining today and sticking with me. Hope you have a great day, and yeah, I'll see you all soon.